Sonya was weeping, marrying an old man. On their wedding night, he went to the bathroom, and when he returned, she looked pale. But before we continue, tell me, where are you watching from? Share your city in the comments below. And now, let yourself sink into the story. Sonya grew up in a small rural town. Her family, Father John, Mother Mary, and her younger brother Alex, lived in a constant struggle to survive. John, with his calloused hands and tired shoulders, would fix neighbors' fences or help on nearby farms when asked. Mary sewed late into the night, hunched over an old machine in the soft glow of a single lamp. But still, there was barely enough money for bread, potatoes, and a little meat on holidays. Sonya, the eldest, had known hunger since childhood. At 16, she began giving up her own dinners, pretending she wasn't hungry, so that Alex, thin and always catching colds, could finish her share. In the evenings, she sat by the window, gazing at the silhouettes of the trees, and dreamed of the day her family wouldn't have to count every penny. Work in the town was scarce. The young people left for the city, while those who stayed clung to any job they could find. Sonya and Alex tried too, but their efforts often met with the cold indifference of the world. John would say, "We'll make it, as long as we stay together." But Sonya saw his back grow more bent each year, saw the fatigue in her mother's eyes deepen. She knew, if nothing changed, their lives would stay trapped in a loop of hardship. Despite the poverty, John and Mary believed in the power of learning. "Study, children," they told them. "That's your ticket to a different life." And Sonya clung to those words like a life raft in a storm. She was a diligent student, and her hard work paid off. The school helped her win a scholarship to a university. Leaving for the city, Sonya felt for the first time like she had a real chance. The university opened a new world. Lectures, books, the constant hum of campus life. She studied economics, dreaming of starting her own business and paying off her family's debts. But reality struck hard. After graduation, the best jobs had already been claimed by those with money, with connections. A degree wasn't enough. Sonya returned home with a suitcase and broken dreams, taking a cashier job at the local store. Shift after shift, she stood behind the counter, forcing a smile, counting change, feeling her future slip further away. Alex, too, struggled. Without a college education, he took whatever came his way, hauling bags, shoveling snow. The past hung over them like a shadow, whispering that no matter how hard they tried, they'd never escape it. Sometimes, late at night, Sonya would see Alex come home with clenched fists and empty eyes. It broke her heart. Sonya was beautiful, long chestnut hair, kind gray eyes. But beauty meant nothing without a dowry. Men looked at her with pity or indifference. Who would marry a girl from that house? The neighbors whispered. She dreamed of a family, of warmth, laughter, and the security of a home untouched by fear. And if you're still with me now, you're already feeling it, aren't you? That ache in the heart, that fragile thread of hope. Let it pull you in. Keep listening. One day, a young man from a nearby town, Stephen, invited her for a walk. They talked, laughed, and for a brief moment, Sonya believed something real might be starting. But a week later, he vanished. She heard from his sister. He said he couldn't take on a burden like that. Those words cut like a knife. She locked herself in her room and cried until sleep finally came. Alex faced the same. Girls turned away as soon as they heard where he lived. He and Sonya would often sit on the porch at night, looking up at the stars. "We're not worse than anyone," Alex would say, gripping her hand. "We're just unlucky." Sonya nodded. But deep down, she felt loneliness settling in like a shadow. Then Michael appeared. He was over 60, with gray hair and deep lines etched into his face. He came to the store nearly every day, buying bread, cheese, or milk, and always left a generous tip. His eyes were warm, alive. He looked at her with something she couldn't quite place. She grew used to him, like any regular customer, until one day he lingered. "Sonya," he said softly but with intent, "I'd like to speak with you, not here. May I come to your home tomorrow?" Confused, she nodded. The next day, Michael arrived with a basket filled with food, meat, fruit, sweets Sonya hadn't seen in months. John and Mary were wary, but Michael was respectful, dignified. Then, seated at their wobbly kitchen table, he made his proposal. "I want you to be my wife," he said. "I am not young, but I have the means. I will care for you and your family you will never want again." The words hung in the air like smoke. Sonya stared at him, speechless. Michael added that he didn't need an answer right away, then left, leaving behind silence and the scent of fruit. That night, Sonya lay awake, eyes fixed on the ceiling. She was 25. He was over 60. She didn't love him. She didn't even truly know him. But his promise echoed in her mind. "Your family will never need again." She remembered her mother pawning her earrings to buy Alex's medicine. Her father coming home empty-handed after being cheated by yet another employer. She thought about the dreams she had buried so many times and about the people she loved. It wasn't love. It was sacrifice. But wasn't that love too? If this story is touching something inside you, if you've ever given up something for the sake of others, take a moment, breathe, and stay with this story, because it's only just beginning. The next morning, Sonya stepped into the yard where her mother was hanging laundry. "Mom," she said, her voice trembling, "what should I do?" Mary turned to her, looking deep into her daughter's eyes. "It's your choice, Sonya, but know this, we don't want your unhappiness." Sonya nodded, but in her heart, she already knew the answer. For their sake, she would say yes. That evening, she gathered her parents and brother at the table. "I'm going to marry Michael," she said quietly. John's brow furrowed. Mary gripped her hand. Alex stood abruptly. "You can't. He's an old man." "He's kind," Sonya replied softly, "and he promised to help us. I'll manage." Her parents tried to change her mind, but Sonya was firm. "You've done so much for me. Now it's my turn." John sighed, defeated. Mary embraced her, whispering, "We'll always be with you." At that moment, Sonya didn't feel like a daughter. She felt like a soldier walking into war. A few days later, Michael came again. Sonya wore her best dress, simple but clean. She trembled as she opened the door, but his smile was warm, calming her nerves. Michael greeted her family with grace, shook Alex's hand, and then turned to Sonya. "I'm glad you've accepted. May I offer you my hand and my heart?" "Officially," he said, kneeling before her. Sonya blushed. Her parents stood frozen. She nodded. He slipped a simple silver ring onto her finger, and behind his calm, she saw something. Kindness. Maybe this wouldn't be as terrifying as it seemed. After the engagement, they began to spend more time together. Michael visited often, bringing gifts, a warm blanket, books for Alex, a jacket for John. He shared pieces of his life, how he'd lost his wife years ago, how he'd built a business in the city. His voice was low but steady, his words full of lived wisdom. Sonya began to open up too. She spoke of her dreams, her love of learning, her family, her pain. "You're strong, Sonya," he told her once. "Most people would have given up long ago." The words touched her. Slowly, she began to see not just an old man, but someone she could trust. The wedding was set for a month later. Mary and the neighbors helped her prepare. They sewed a dress from old tulle and added lace. Sonya tried it on, staring at herself in the mirror, but each time she felt like a stranger in that reflection. She wanted to be a joyful bride, but her heart whispered, "This is not your fairy tale." The age, the wealth, the sacrifice, it weighed heavily on her. Michael sent money for the food and flowers, but Sonya couldn't shake the doubt. What if I can't do this? But then she remembered her father, her mother, Alex, and her resolve returned. On her wedding day, Sonya stood before the mirror in white. Her hair was done. In her trembling hands, a bouquet of wildflowers. Mary came up behind her and embraced her. "You are strong, Sonya. Never forget that." Sonya nodded, tears already falling. The ceremony was held in the village church. Michael wore a sharp suit. His silver hair shone in the candlelight. Sonya whispered yes with a trembling voice. He slid a gold ring onto her finger. She cried as she got married, not from joy, as the guests assumed, but from the storm of fear, hope, and sorrow inside her. After the wedding, Michael took Sonya to his home in the city, a mansion, high ceilings, marble floors, servants who bowed as she walked past. Sonya felt like a ghost in someone else's life. Her old boots looked absurd on those polished floors. Michael saw her unease and gently took her hand. "Give yourself time," he whispered. "You'll get used to it." That night, exhausted by the unfamiliar luxury, Sonya asked to go to her room early. She collapsed onto the bed, finally letting herself exhale. But sleep didn't come. Her mind swirled with memories of home and the weight of what lay ahead. And then a sound. Water running gently through the wall. From the bathroom. Sonya sat up. The sound grew louder in the silence of the house. Maybe he was unwell. He was old after all. Concern overpowered fear. She put on her robe and tiptoed to the door. The hallway was dark, except for a sliver of light under the bathroom door. "Misha," she called softly. No answer. The water grew louder. She knocked lightly. The door swung open. And standing there was not the man she married, not the aged Michael with silver hair and worn eyes. Before her stood a man, tall, youthful, confident, with smooth skin, lively eyes, and thick, dark hair. His face, though younger, held the same dimple, the same warmth in the eyes. Her breath caught, her knees nearly gave out. This was Michael, and yet not. "Who are you?" she whispered. "Don't be afraid," he said, stepping closer. His voice, still low, now carried a vibrant energy. "It's me." She shook her head, stepped back until her spine hit the wall. "No," she breathed. Michael raised his hands, palms out, gentle. "Let me explain." He gestured toward the couch visible down the corridor. "Please, sit." Sonya didn't move until he stepped away first. Slowly, trembling, she followed him and sat, barely perched on the edge of the sofa. Michael sat across from her at a respectful distance. "I'm not who I pretended to be," he began. "I used makeup, a wig, old clothes, to appear older." He looked into her eyes. "My grandfather passed away a year ago. He left me not only his fortune, but a request, a final wish, to find a woman with a pure heart. He heard about you. He met you once. You helped him carry groceries to his car. You didn't know he was wealthy. You just smiled and wished him a good day." That moment, so small to her, had stayed with the old man until his last breath, and he had asked his grandson to find her. Michael's words fell like stones into a still lake. Makeup, a will, a test. Sonya's mind spun. He continued, "I had to know if you'd marry me for money or something deeper. And I saw you, Sonya. I saw a woman who gives everything for her family, who walks into fire for the people she loves. I fell in love, not with your choice, with your soul." Sonya could barely breathe. "You lied to me," she finally said, voice cracking. "You made me believe I was sacrificing my life. For what? So you could judge me?" Michael bowed his head. Pain flickered in his eyes. "I'm sorry, truly. I never wanted to hurt you. I just didn't know another way to see your heart." Sonya buried her face in her hands. Her chest shook with sobs. Her anger fought against the strange peace blooming inside her. He had deceived her, but he had also seen her. All of her. He reached out a hand. Sonya hesitated, then placed hers in it. They embraced. In that moment, the tension melted. The man before her wasn't an old stranger. He was someone who had searched for her, for the light she didn't even know she carried. And if this story has touched something in you, if you've ever felt unseen, unchosen, or forced to make a choice that wasn't truly yours, don't go anywhere. There's more you need to hear, because what happened next would change everything. The next morning arrived quietly, as if the world itself were holding its breath. Sonya stood at the window of her room, gazing out at the dew-covered grass. The mansion, the marriage, the truth, it all weighed on her heart. Her thoughts swirled like clouds before a storm. Michael, not old, but young. Not a stranger, but someone who had known her long before she knew him. In her chest, resentment and relief waged a silent war. But one thing was certain. She had to go home. Back to her parents. Back to the truth. At breakfast, Sonya looked across the table at him. "I need to tell them," she said, her fingers gripping the rim of her teacup. Michael nodded, his expression serious, but worry flickering in his eyes. "I'm ready, Sonya. I'll explain everything." He reached for her hand, but she didn't take it, not because she didn't want to, but because she didn't yet know how to trust again. The road home felt endless. His car moved gently over the cracked country lanes as Sonya stared out the window, fields, worn fences, crooked telephone poles flashing past like memories. She didn't know how her parents would react, what they would say when they learned she had married a man behind a mask. Her chest tightened. Her fingers twisted the edge of her scarf until the fabric crumpled in her grip. When they pulled up to the old house, her breath caught in her throat. That peeling paint, the sagging porch, the cracked windows. It was still home, with all its pain and all its love. John was sitting on the bench repairing an old fishing rod. Mary was bent in the garden, pulling weeds. When they saw the car, they both straightened, and their faces lit up with joy. Their daughter had come home. Sonya was the first to step out. She rushed to her mother and buried her face into her shoulder, inhaling the familiar scent of soil and warm bread. "Mom, Dad," she whispered, "I have something to tell you." John rose, embracing her with trembling hands. Sonya felt the weight of his arms, rough and real. Michael stepped out of the car slowly, holding a small bag. He stopped a few paces back, watching, waiting. Sonya turned to him and nodded. He came forward. "John, Mary," he began, his voice steady but low. "There's something I must show you." And right there in the yard, he removed the last of his disguise, the faint makeup along his temples, the wig he had worn that morning to avoid shocking Sonya too soon. The gray disappeared, the wrinkles faded, and in his place stood a man just over 30, dark hair, clear eyes, The same face, but now youthful, open. John dropped the fishing rod. Mary gasped, her hand flying to her mouth. Alex, who had just stepped outside, froze in the doorway, his eyes wide. "It's me," Michael said. "I pretended to be someone I'm not, because my grandfather, before he passed, asked me to find a woman with a good heart. He had met your daughter. He saw her kindness. He asked me to find her and to see if what I hoped was true. I wanted to know if she would marry me for money or for something deeper. And she did not choose me. She chose you, her family. I loved her for that." Silence blanketed the yard like snow. Sonya turned to her parents, her eyes pleading for understanding. John coughed, a dry, rattling sound. But then he stepped forward. "You lied to all of us," he said sternly. But something in his eyes softened. "Why?" "To find the truth," Michael answered, meeting his gaze without flinching. "And to give you everything you deserve. I will take care of Sonya, of all of you, I promise." Mary's eyes welled with tears. She reached for her daughter, whispering, "Sweetheart, is it true? Are you happy with him?" Sonya nodded, tears now rolling down her cheeks. "I didn't know at first, Mom, but now I believe him." Alex stepped forward last. He studied Michael in silence, then slowly extended his hand. "You're a clever one," he said, a small smile playing on his lips. "Welcome to the family." Michael shook it, and in that moment something shifted. The past was still there, but so was something new. Hope. The tension broke. Michael was invited inside. At the same wobbly table where they once split potatoes and stale bread, they now sat together, sharing questions, stories, laughter, and a few more tears. A week passed. But for Sonya, every day felt like a brand new chapter. Michael wasted no time proving his love, not with words, but with action. One morning he said to her, "We're going back to the village. I have something for your family." A mysterious smile curved his lips. Sonya's heart fluttered with anticipation. When they arrived, a truck was parked near the old house. A man was unloading furniture. John and Mary stepped onto the porch, confused. Alex ran toward them, eyes full of questions. Michael took Sonya's hand and led her forward. "This," he said, pointing to the small, charming cottage across the road, "is your new home." Sonya froze. The house was modest but beautiful. White walls, a little garden where spring flowers had already begun to bloom. The windows sparkled, a gentle trail of smoke curled from the chimney. Mary clasped her hands over her chest. John cleared his throat and looked away, blinking fast. Alex gave a quiet whistle. "And that's not all," Michael added, turning to John. "I've arranged for treatment in the city. Your lungs need care. It's all been covered." For the first time in years, Sonya didn't hear the rasp of her father's cough. Only silence, deep and stunned. Mary rushed forward and hugged Michael as if he were her own. "Thank you," she whispered. "Thank you for our girl, for us." They all stepped inside. The air smelled of fresh paint and pine wood. On the table, a teapot sat, left by one of the workers. John settled into a new armchair. Mary began adjusting the curtains. Alex inspected every corner of his new room with a grin. Sonya touched the walls, still unable to believe it. Her family had been given a second chance. And if you've ever wished for something like that, a reset, a rescue, a moment where hope walks through your door dressed as the impossible, then keep listening. Because sometimes the smallest kindness, the quietest choice, can ripple through the world like magic. That evening, Sonya stood beside Michael on the porch of the new house. The sky glowed with golden and pink hues. A soft breeze moved through her hair, like a whisper from the past, or maybe from the future. She looked at him, at his young face, his steady eyes, so full of warmth, and she thought of all that had happened. "I made a choice without knowing the whole truth," she said softly, gently squeezing his hand. "I thought I was sacrificing myself, but it led me to you." Michael smiled, drawing her closer. "You're not a victim, Sonya. You're strong, and I'm grateful to fate that it led me to you." They didn't become a perfect family, but they became a real one, with mistakes, with tears, with truths hard-earned, but also with love that grew slowly and deeply, day by day. And Sonya understood. Their story was a lesson that sometimes kindness, especially the kind that no one sees, is what writes the most beautiful endings. That one small act, like helping an old man carry his bags, can ripple outward and transform lives. So if this story stirred something in you, if you've felt unseen or stuck or burdened by the weight of what life has thrown your way, know this: there is more waiting for you than what you've lost. And sometimes life offers us a second chance, not in loud miracles, but in quiet moments, in unexpected discoveries, like what's recently been found hidden in a rare purple shell. Something that, according to new studies, might naturally triple the rate at which your body burns fat, even while you sleep. No extreme diets, no grueling workouts, just nature, finally revealing something it had kept secret until now. If you've been longing to feel good in your own skin again, to wake up with energy, confidence, and freedom in your body, don't ignore this. The full details of this fascinating discovery are waiting for you in the video description. This might be your turning point. Because just like Sonya, you deserve more than survival. You deserve transformation. You deserve to live a story that surprises even you.